All right, Dean, I need to call IT.
Yes.
We didn't have the budget for this.
Oh, boy.
I haven't been trained on this.
Okay.
My device has been hacked.
Wow.
My coworker has my device. Damn it, this won't scan.
John, you're not having a good day, man.
Well, none of those phrases are good things to hear at a workplace, right?
That's true. This is true. Yes.
But especially
Yes.
in healthcare,
Oh, my gosh.
where every moment can
Yeah.
be critical for both patients, for the caregivers.
You think?
Yeah, I
I mean,
would think
we're
so.
talking about lives, I would imagine, right?
Lives can quite literally be
Kind
at
of
stake
important.
in these
Yep.
places. Well, this is the subject of our latest BlueStar Nation end user survey, sponsored by our
Yes.
folks at Honeywell.
Yay.
And you might notice we've got an extra person in the booth, the studio,
Yes.
the desks with
Yes.
us today. If you're watching the YouTube video, we've got Will Mobley from Honeywell joining us to talk about all things healthcare and what's happening in the world of healthcare and what's happening from this survey, what we've learned about. We're gonna talk
good
about
survey again.
What really stalls these hospital tech deals, which if anybody works in healthcare,
Yes.
that's probably a problem you've
Yes.
encountered. At some point, I'm sure you've experienced it too, right,
Yes.
Will?
Yes.
You're working with someone and everything seems to be going smoothly.
You get the
They
proof of
like what you're showing
concept.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you roll out that pilot and then nothing seems to happen. So we're going to explain what's happening there. We're going to talk about the challenges that they're facing. We're going to talk about how you can help them overcome, grow your business in healthcare, obviously, because that's what we all want to do. So put on your scrubs, get a couple generous pumps from that hand sanitizer. I'm John Martin.
I'm Dean Reverman.
And we got Will Mobley here. I think Mobley is right, isn't it?
Technically Mobley, but I respond
Mobley,
to it.
Mobley.
That's right.
There it
See,
is.
I usually ask this stuff ahead of time.
I wasn't going to correct you.
We're just going to erase this and start all over. Nah, we've done a good job already.
Yeah,
Welcome to BlueStar Nation. This episode of the BlueStar Nation podcast is brought to you by Honeywell and the Xenon Ultra 1962H cordless handheld scanner. Wow, for healthcare. That's a little bit of a mouthful.
Yes.
The Xenon Ultra incorporates Honeywell's next generation of scanning capability, allowing patient care to stay top priority for clinicians and helping lower the total cost of ownership for hospitals. Developed with the healthcare environment in mind, the Xenon Ultra offers an improved design which reduces nooks or crannies where germs could linger and hide. Is that official marketing speak? Is that is that on the spec sheet?
Yes.
For the Xenon, like nooks and crannies
where things hide.
It may just be, actually.
Yeah.
But it's a mouthful to say, but a handful of good technology.
Oh,
nice.
Wow.
Well played.
Okay, you did say you came from a marketing background.
Yeah.
I may have written that. That's
Nice. All right, I like it. Man, I should have consulted you ahead of time. I should have included that in the copy here.
Yes.
Freedom of movement around patients, family members, and expensive equipment, particularly in congested patient rooms or ICUs, is a continued challenge for today's clinicians. The Xenon Ultra 1962H takes up minimal space, can be mounted, and ensures nurses are focusing on patient safety and comfort. It's available with a battery-free supercapacitor or standard lithium-ion battery. Both power options are also available in contactless orientations. To learn more, check out accessories and buy now by checking out the link in the show notes or contacting the BlueStar Honeywell team.
I think we need to say that name in the movie voice, though. I mean, come on. Xenon.
Ultra.
I mean, when you put your marketing hat on, don't you kind of like, that's the way we should say that. Anyway, continue, John.
Anyway,
I digress.
You digress hard there.
Yeah, sorry about that.
The BlueStar Nation podcast is also brought to you by ELO. Touch is not always a good thing in healthcare. So now you can get monitors that deliver the superior durability and quality that ELO is known for in a non-touch display. With 22 and 24-inch options, these monitors feature anti-glare edge-to-edge glass with IKO6 impact resistance, enhanced ESD performance, and a ventless back and cable cover designed to help reduce foreign contaminant ingress. We're all about keeping those contaminants out of the nooks and crannies in this episode.
Absolutely.
From digital signage and kitchen display systems to dashboards, medical carts, and production line monitors, the 2210L and 2240L monitors provide a reliable, cost-effective display in a thin, compact form factor, long life cycles, integrated VESA mounting, and peace of mind courtesy of ELO care, service, and support. Hands off! ELO has the non-touch monitors your customers need. Contact the BlueStar ELO team to learn more and place an order. All right.
Anyway.
Our guest today, as I mentioned earlier, is Will Mobley. I apologize for getting that wrong out of the gate. He's a strategic account manager for healthcare for the U.S. Northeast for Honeywell. That's a mouthful of a title there too. Like you're just a guy that knows the stuff that you need to know about healthcare and Honeywell, right?
I hope so.
So give us a little about your background. What led you to Honeywell? What's your experience? I guess I tipped off earlier. You're a bit of a marketing guy in your past. So give us a little bit of your history.
Absolutely. I started at Honeywell 4 years ago. So in Honeywell terms, that's about 40 years. So it's been
so true.
It is true. You feel it. I know.
So true. Yep.
But it's been a lot of fun. Started on the marketing side, like you mentioned, customer marketing. So working a variety of roles in that facet, and then moved to the product marketing side, where I covered the Xenon as well as some of our other lines of business, and even covered some different verticals, including healthcare. So really, that's where I started to get my jump into healthcare, and grew that expertise somewhat, and led us on the marketing side from a healthcare perspective vertically too, along with everything else.
There you go. Yep.
All right, so you're in there in the weeds every day. So we are going to talk about the latest of our BlueStar Nation surveys. If you're, for some reason, have not heard of BlueStar Nation, this must be your first episode of the podcast.
You need to get with the program.
The podcast is even called BlueStar Nation, but the BlueStar Nation blog, which you can find nation.bluestarinc.com. We do all kinds of great content there that can help you grow your business, learn a little bit more about, what you need to know from a marketing and sales standpoint to go out and win. But I think the best thing that we do there is these end user surveys.
For sure.
So we work with VDC Research to go out and actually reach out to folks that are actually in the weeds, doing your type of customers, doing the jobs that you're trying to connect with, and find out what their, experiences are, what their challenges are, how they go about making decisions when it comes to selecting their, operational IT. So this particular survey, which we were proud and happy to have Honeywell sponsor for us, we talked to 100 hospital executives. 50% of them were in IT. 27% were either in wide or multi-department leaders, across a hospital. We had U.S. and Canada. I think it was mostly U.S., 80%, I believe, and then 20% Canada, and a variety of different sizes of hospitals. So we got a nice wide swath of people that were covering the survey. And the first thing I kind of wanted to get us into here, which I think ended up being kind of the crux of what we really learned, and I think is probably the most important thing we can talk about here is, as we talked about up front, the idea of scaling a solution, the idea of, going in and having a great conversation with someone, showing them your products, maybe getting a demo, maybe getting a pilot off the ground, everything's going smoothly. But then again, after that initial pilot, things seem to stagnate. Nothing's happening. We're not getting the rollout, or maybe you got a sale, but you expected it to move exponentially, and nothing's happening. So let's talk about these.
The bane of all salespeople, by the way. Yes.
Let's talk about some of the sticking points where this is happening. Here's what the folks in this survey told us. 37% said that IT and support constraints were the biggest thing that kept them from moving forward from that pilot phase. 19% said budget, which again, I think most people would have assumed that budget was going to be at the top, but that was not the case here. In fact, almost double that was the IT and support constraints. And then 18% said training. So Will, what's happening here? What's going on that is creating this IT and support constraint? Is the budgets really as part of this as we think? The training side, what do hospitals need to do to overcome those challenges? We'll get to what we can help them do later, but what are hospitals actually encountering here? What are you seeing when you're out there talking to them?
I think it's a good point. And from a macro perspective, if I start there, just healthcare in general is, as you mentioned, having a lot of stress and challenges put onto it. And the razor thin margins, so you mentioned the financial aspect, there's that component too. People think healthcare is so expensive, which it is, but they're not making a lot of money, only on selective things. And so the margins are thin. And so we're, as a health system, if we start at what their focus is, where do they cut? And there's not many places you can cut, because it's not just time and money, but it's lives at stake in healthcare. And so where they can't cut doctors, you can't cut nurses. You need those people.
Thankfully.
Thankfully. So they start to trim in other areas. So it's back office workflows, back office operations, and even IT. And so that's where we see a lot of IT guys have so much pushed onto them. They're managing hundreds of thousands of devices for the health systems that I work with on a daily basis. They're trying to find new solutions and trying to fix problems, and it's all down to like 4 guys. So it's some cases more than that, but still, it's a lot of stress and challenges put onto them, and so the frustration is that we can't get stuff forward because there's so many projects happening. But it's because there's not a lot of people there to support it, and so I think that is a challenge. But I think the other big thing, as we talk about, you mentioned a pilot, but just looking at there's challenges with the IT guys or IT support, having the right people, enough people there, but also the implementation. If we want to start that, these guys get stuff thrown at them every day. There's people like me contacting them. There's people from AI. Now AI, everybody has that in their world and language. And so there's challenges. And so implementing properly is absolutely vital. Because technology, I talked with a peer the other day, and he was saying that technology is not the silver bullet. It's not the end all be all that's going to solve all of our problems, but you have to deploy it properly. And the deployment process doesn't start when you flip on the switch to turn it on, but it starts before. And so it's making sure you have the right processes lined up, being on site with the customer, working through their workflows, identifying what they're actually going with, or what they're actually looking for, and how it actually fits into their environments. Whether you have to change things, or is it just an add-on, or is it minimal changes? Because all of that will impact the IT staff specifically, along with the clinicians and the users, also at a very important level. But if that can be done effectively and smoothly, I think they'll want to partner with you more and drive that to conclusion, because they know it's not an easy button, but it's an easier step in the process to make things happen and moving forward.
Makes sense.
I'm fascinated by the report as well. When you think about it, 37% citing IT and support constraints. Well, to me, they're asking the wrong people to do the support in the sense that, IT people are really good at enabling technology, getting stuff to work, right? Like connecting this, and making sure that it works in our ERP, which is a big thing in hospitals and stuff like that. But do I want my IT person training the clinician how to use a particular device? So I don't know. I mean, when you think about the hospitals, and I don't live in the world, but when I have experienced hospitals, they actually are really good at human resources, right? I mean, they've got great, robust human resource, and so everything around that. But I'm wondering if there's a training miss in the sense that, sure, we're rolling out this important technology, this edge device, and all these things that are going to make the workflow better. But then who's there to support it? Well, it's not going to be the tech support, from IT that's managing servers. That's what they're comfortable with, and not having to interface with people. Like I interface with the server and I make sure that this server is working. I'm not going to teach the clinicians how to use it. Anyway, it was kind of gleaning from me. So I don't know, maybe it's some of the wrong people that they're looking for. But in our world now, we got to be cognizant of that, right? And so now how does the reseller, I guess that's the follow-up to that, is like, how does the reseller then engage with that, or how can they enable people with the devices that they're putting in to make sure that there is ongoing understanding of how to use it, right? So, we implement it, and it's like,
that brings up a very important question to me. Then does that mean that if you are a reseller that wants to play in the healthcare space, should you be bringing people on staff that are, or at least one person that is very well versed in that world, that maybe has lived in that world themselves, that understands what clinicians have to deal with, understand what nurses have to deal with, and can help maybe go out and be that kind of frontline person? Because let's be honest, a lot of the reseller world is a bunch of IT and tech guys as well. Guys and gals, like, that's what they're familiar with. They understand the servers and they understand the specs and all of that stuff. They can get something off and running and make sure that it's, working smoothly. But maybe that hurdle of, okay, we got it working smoothly, but now we've got to convince a group of people who have an entirely different skill set and a different job set and are very focused on what they're doing for their patients to incorporate that into their workflows and understand how it's going to make their workflows better. Will, has that been your experience? Do you find that resellers that maybe have someone with a little bit of that experience tend to do better at these conversations as well?
Absolutely. If you either had those people or are able to pull them in, a lot of resellers have the ability to provide staffing support or other things too. And even if they don't, that's okay. Or you can loop in like the vendor, like Honeywell. We have nurses on our staff as well that we can provide some of that experience and expertise. Lean on that, and even if I point to the broader Honeywell, we do a lot more than just this in healthcare, and so there's a lot of experiences and experts that we can lean on too for that information. But Dean, I think to your point too, that the training is absolutely right, because an IT guy is not going to go train every employee. And for like the health systems I'm talking to that have thousands of nurses on 10 different, 20 different hospitals, I can't go talk to every nurse. But what we've done actually with some deployments is set up like super users or user champions. And so we'll train at maybe if we're going live at a certain location, hospital A, we'll train nurses or clinicians, whoever's using our device or that product on each floor, each shift. And so that way there's experts. And there's trainings ahead of time and virtually recorded too, but there's experts on each floor and within each shift and department. That way, if a nurse has a question on how do I use this printer, how to use XYZ, they can go to them first. So it's an extra layer that can speak in their language, more so than maybe an IT guy could, and having to go pull them, wake them up in the middle of the night or whatever it may be. So it's just another way to create experience and experts on the floor with you that can speak in your terms, but then also delay it from getting to IT before they have to do everything.
See, that's brilliant, if you ask me, really because you've just conquered that main issue, right? If the IT department has this bandwidth of support constraint, right? So we've made it through the proof of concept. Yes, this device is the end all. It's gonna solve all these issues, but we have no way of rolling it out to 1,000 different nurses and stuff like that. So as a reseller, I would think, well, now we have to have that answer, whether it's leaning on vendor support, leaning on ISV support, or to where you're going, do we staff up? Do we now create that as a part of our value add, that we will have somebody that can come in and help support that, and then that person's job is to visit all of our customers, and make sure that they're utilizing the device as it was and stuff like that. So, man, that's a huge barrier though. When it's 37%, and this was clearly the biggest one, right? How do we move this beyond a proof of concept? You got to tackle that. You got to have a good plan, like it sounds like you did with that one hospital, to implement these things. That's a part of the mix.
Yeah. I think we preach a lot that in most industries, staying involved is important. We're far beyond the days of, I sold the thing, shake your hand,
Call me if you need anything.
Call me if you need something. Otherwise, I'll come back next year when I want to sell you the next new thing. That shouldn't be the case in any industry, but I think healthcare in particular is really one where if you want to continue growing the business, if you want to keep holding that business, if you want to deliver the ROI that they're expecting and looking for, you should be staying in touch and involved on a regular basis. And someone should be walking in that door, I'd say at least once a month, if not even more, and just checking in and finding out how things are going. Like you said, those super users, that's great. Someone's still got to train those super users, and those people might rotate in and out too. So, let's
real quick before we go on to the next one, because you were part of the Healthcare Executive Summit that we just did recently as well, and there's a lot of talk about rural healthcare, right? And so you've got the big hospital systems, but do you see some of these issues still even in the small to medium sized, hospital operations where they have the same constraints? Maybe their IT department isn't 10 people, now it's 2 people. Right? Yep. And they're dealing with physical, disparity in the sense that locations are really, truly far apart, like a day's drive or a half a day's drive to get out there. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's part of the issue there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it is. And whether it's a large hospital or a small one, they're all going through the same issues. And I think we saw that in the report when you read it too, that we're all experiencing the same challenges. And so especially it's just permeated even further if you're not local to the hospital, but now you're further out. If I don't know what's happening or I don't have anybody local to me, now I'm having to call somebody and they're going to drive out or have to drive back, then drive back to your patient, whatever it may be. So definitely it's important to have some of those connected super user groups or resources available. So maybe that's FAQs, frequently asked question documents, or there's recordings for trainings if needed as well. It's just having resources available at the fingertips that a nurse or a frontline worker can lean on, even if they're not right next to the IT guys.
Yeah,
right.
And John, I just want to touch on, I know we're going to keep moving, but to your point about what hospitals are looking for, I think they're looking for strategic partners right now. And it's not just I know we're joking, it's not just a box pusher, send me a scanner or send me a printer and move on. But how can I partner with somebody who understands my financial challenges, understands the healthcare environment, and I can partner with them to not just give a product, but develop solutions that are going to set them put forward to help address they have a lack of IT. How can we address that with the solutions we're deploying? How can we provide a better total cost of ownership with the budget sort of side of things? I get it. Like our mobile devices, on paper, they're more expensive than an iPhone. But long term, we're going to save you millions of dollars. And so how can we strategically position that and demonstrate that to the customer with our partner community? And that's going to make us more strategic partners, developing solutions long term than just a box pusher.
Well,
Couldn't agree more.
I think that's super important to hear also, because I feel like there's always been this perception that healthcare is just a race to the bottom type of industry, where it's like who can get it sold for the lowest cost? Who's going to be able
the purchasing departments are like the devil.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Oh no, I'm not buying unless it's the lowest price.
It's all about the budgets. It's all about the margins.
Yeah, right.
Whatever the lowest price is going to win. It's nice to know that in reality, that's not necessarily what's happening on the ground. It's like, sure, they want to cut cost, of course, they have to, but it doesn't mean that's the be all end all of what it makes a purchasing decision. To your point, if a strategic partner might have a better leg up than someone with a slightly lower price, just because of what else they offer, those value adds that you're offering along the way. So let's jump to the next question here, which we obviously as part of understanding like what's going on, we also need to learn about the challenges that are happening in healthcare. So we had a question we were asking: what are the leading challenges facing the healthcare sector in 2026? And we asked everybody to give their top two. Now the potential responses weren't all necessarily something that had to be technology related, but we also kind of knew like all of them are ones that could have been addressed by technology in some way. The number one answer was at 39%. Was cybersecurity risks, basically cybersecurity and data privacy risks, which again might be surprising, because I think if you ask most people, they would have said it was budgets or staffing. Now, staffing was a close second at 31%, but even so, cybersecurity and data privacy risk being the number one challenge that most of them saw was, to me, kind of stands out a little bit, again, about maybe reframing the way we think about how healthcare works right now. So let's talk about, why that's so important. I think most people probably understand that, but you've probably had some insights of what's occurring that's making people concerned about cybersecurity and data privacy and all those risks. And what responsibility do you think that the resellers really have in playing a part? I know that, devices can have some security aspects to them, but there probably is a perception like, well, I'm not a cybersecurity expert. I'm not a network expert. I'm not a privacy expert. Do I really need to care that much about this? How do you address those talking points?
Yeah, I think the big thing, most profound thing for me was I was talking to some healthcare leaders recently, and they said it's not if we get attacked, but it's when we get attacked. And that's what they're focused on, because the realization is real, that in healthcare, it's 2 times as expensive to recover from a data breach. It takes more time than other industries to do that, to return back to normal. And so health systems right now, they're taking steps to prepare to avoid and limit or reduce any attacks that come, but they're also trying to take steps to prepare if it comes. What am I going to do about it? And so there's avenues that outside my realm. I'm not an expert on that, but that our partner community and VAR community can probably address with cybersecurity things. But even if you aren't, to your point, I think there's steps you can take. Part of it's looking for partners that are lead in cybersecurity. I know from Honeywell perspective, we do $10 billion plus with the government at a corporate Honeywell level. And so a lot of our technology goes through many stringent tests, more so than maybe other vendors do on a regular basis, simply because it's Honeywell. But we're one of the few gold level partners with Android and Google, and so globally. And so that means that we're on their highest level of security standards, supporting them with our technology. So there's one component to that, partnering with people who have some of those experiences, those backgrounds, deep levels of security and technology. But if I'm also looking at our perspective, what else can I do? And I think part of it is life cycle management. And so as devices age, it's just making sure they're on the latest versions, because the latest version of technology should have the latest security settings. And so sometimes that means new technology. But in the area of healthcare, where budget constraints are a problem, our focus is how can we maximize your current technology. And so one of the ways to do that is to make sure you're using asset management properly, managing those assets, making sure they're on the latest firmware, making sure they're latest on the latest updates and security settings of what they have. And we have tools to do that, like operational intelligence. We can partner with other organizations too that can do that as well, whether it be scanners, printers, mobile computers, et cetera. But it's keeping those devices, I think, up to date. And we talk a lot in healthcare, preventative care. How can I go to the gym to hopefully prevent future care?
Right.
This is preventative maintenance and preventative care for our
on the device.
Technology.
That's a great way to explain that in kind of medical terms.
Yeah.
I just think that's cool. It's a nice way to be able to say, like, hey, you guys understand preventative care, right? Okay, well, here's how we are doing that, but for a device instead. Right. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's interesting that it was such a concern in this survey that it's pulled out, and it's important because I can't think of a more sensitive data source or data element than healthcare. Maybe your banking information, right? Like it's like these are pretty high,
high stakes.
High stakes.
Yeah.
If you steal my subscription to whatever the local paper, okay, they got hacked, whatever. Yeah. But if you hack and get my healthcare information, now we got an issue. Yeah. So it's a huge concern for them, and I would imagine the resellers really have to have at least a play. And I love where you're going, Will, in the sense that in fact we just got back from the Honeywell SKO, and they've got great partners like BlueStar, who is phenomenal, at being able to develop. They have a solution that's M2M management, right? Yep. You want to make sure that these devices have, again, the most up to date, but also that it lives in a world that is secure, to a certain degree, and it's integrated into these ERP systems, and so you're just mitigating risk. The more integrated it is, and when you develop solutions with the ecosystem that's out there, because you're going to need these people. We preach about it all the time. There's no way a reseller can be knowledgeable on all the things that need to happen. It's through the ecosystem that they're going to have a play in this so that they can mitigate that. And I think that is the responsibility of the reseller, is to have those experts that they can bring in to develop these solutions. So I'm sure you're seeing your ecosystem expand a little bit. Yes, Honeywell does a lot of great stuff and a lot of built-in stuff, but you also have an ecosystem, right? Like the Blue Fletches of the world?
Absolutely. Blue Fletch, Improvada, I know there's similar
another
comparisons, but
absolutely.
Others, and even 42 Gears or SODI from an asset management perspective, and MDMs if it applies to it. So a lot of opportunities, and if we're not partnering with you yet, we're definitely more than happy to.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, there's just a knowledge there that you have to do that. And then all of them speak the speak. They all go, well, yeah, we're Cerner certified and, or whatever, Epic certified. And everybody understands, the need to do that. But as a reseller, you got to be in tune with all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I made a joke at the very front that was a subtle allusion to the HBO series, The Pit.
I haven't seen it yet.
I'm sure you've watched it, haven't you?
I haven't.
Oh,
actually.
really?
I'm pretty boring, so I apologize.
All right. Well, there's a lot of people that were very obsessed with this show. It's a great hospital
show. It's next on my list to watch, but go ahead.
Yes, highly recommend it. Well, they had a big storyline this year about the Pit, which is like an ER, in a Pittsburgh hospital. Mm-hmm. They had a big storyline about a cybersecurity shutdown. It was actually, I think, another hospital had an issue, like a ransomware attack, but they still had to take their hospital offline in order to make sure that it didn't hit them. So it was this big storyline throughout about half the season of how they're all trying to manage and deal with it. Now, the Pit is an extremely exaggerated version of an ER. I would hope that most ERs never experience a day anything like what they seem to deal with all the time on that show. But even so, it was an interesting storyline, and it to me, the storylines they've had on that show have been obviously very relevant and clearly pulled from people who work in the industry and have told them, like, hey, this is the stuff that we're seeing happening. These are things that we care about and what's going on the front lines. So the fact that they decided to make that as such an important part of the show tells me, like, this is, again, as this survey demonstrated, an issue that they are concerned about, that they are talking about, that they are worried about. And to your point, it's not an if, it's a when. It's an expectation that it will happen at some point, and how much can go wrong. So yeah, I think, even if that's not your forte, if that's not your niche, that's fine. Find partners that it is. At the very least, be able to speak to it, know about what it is, because if this many people are concerned about it, that needs to be part of any conversation you're having about how what your solution is that you're providing is going to help tap into that and address that.
And it's more than just like endpoint security or what we would deem as like when I think cybersecurity, I'm thinking like internet and that kind of stuff. But it's like access control, right? And authentication. These are major things. If a nurse is signing into something, you want it to be that nurse. You don't want it to be some dude that walked off the street and suddenly
that's why you see like the RFID,
yes, exactly, yes. So it's more than that, right? It's more than just some of those things. But to your point, you got to be in tune with some of these things, to understand them.
All right, let's talk a little bit about workflow bottlenecks, because that is also obviously a hot topic and top of mind for a lot of the folks in healthcare and in hospitals. So we asked some questions about where workflows are kind of breaking down, where things are happening, and in particular around sharing devices and scanning failures.
Yes.
Two things that can be very problematic. So here's some of the data we found. 78% of the people we talked to said that their clinicians typically do share devices. So it's not that they're.
Can we hover on that for just a second?
They don't all have their own assigned device.
78%.
They are sharing. So it might be, between shifts, maybe you're using the devices. It could even potentially be, between scanners or whatever, maybe within a shift, maybe there's only a limited amount available and they're all splitting those out. So that's at a high amount that are doing that. 55% said that sometimes devices simply aren't available. So again, if they're sharing, or if there's a limited amount of them, that maybe someone has to do something and don't have the device they need on hand. 43% said they would find a device with the battery not charged and ready to roll. 36% saying that their devices are just misplaced and unable to be found or lost for a period of time.
Where do they go? Yep.
So those are all alarming stats, especially again when we're talking in healthcare and in hospitals where every moment counts.
You kind of need the device.
The ability to be able to do something on a device or scan something could again mean the difference between life and death potentially, or at least getting your patients moving and along the process.
Right.
So, Will, does this reflect issues that you are coming across as well? Are you hearing the same stuff? How is all this stuff impacting staff and patients? And what are you hearing when you're out there talking to these people?
Short answer is yes. And
I figured as much, yeah.
The part B to that is I'm jumping for joy because these are the stories I tell all the time. that now it's nice to know I'm not a liar.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, there you go. You can, if you want, your next visit, you can take this survey with you. Be like, hey, I got some data to back this up. Everyone else is saying this too. It's not just me.
Yeah. No, it absolutely is. And I think a big part of it, what I see some of these issues as I look through them, is around mobility. That's where I think a lot of them are. Yes, they're sharing scanners, they're sharing printers. That's normal. Nobody's going to really take those home, I would expect.
Right.
But mobile devices is where this plays a big role.
Yeah, right.
And I think one of the misconceptions in our industry, coming from, because we're a heavy supply chain retail environment, a lot of Android-based settings or Android-based operating systems, that's not the case in healthcare. In fact, my biggest competitor necessarily isn't one who has an Android background, although yes, they are big competitors for mobility or other things, but it's actually iOS and Apple.
Right.
And that's where the EMRs like Epic, they develop their solutions on, and they push that. Clinicians are more educated users, and frontline workers are. There may be some other industries or users of other industries like supply chain or retail, whatever it may be. And so they're more educated, but also they have a larger say in what's put out technology-wise, especially when it comes to the device that they're using 24/7. That's at their fingertips. Yeah. And so Apple and iOS, because it's built on Epic or Epic builds around it, and it's just something they're comfortable with, is a big focus. Yeah. But the challenge is it's a consumer grade device.
Yep. And
it's built for you and I. I like them so much I have two of them. Right. So it's built for you and I to use as a personal level or calling, texting a business, but it's not built for the enterprise. And so this is really where we see an opportunity, and the great storyline looking at these statistics is where Honeywell and our types of solutions, purpose-built solutions, play a role. Yeah. Because if I look at devices not available, or batteries not charged.
Right.
If this isn't charged, it doesn't last a full shift.
Right.
And even if it's 1 or 2 years old, we all know it. It's not going to last.
If it's not brand new out of the box, you're not getting. You're not getting.
I've got to be hooked up to a charger. Yep. Right. And if I do, I have to hook up to a charger and I have to walk away. I can't use it. But with the Honeywell devices, I can just use my device, keep it on, swap out the battery, and I can still stay on this podcast or on a call with you guys if I wanted to. So it's a matter of seconds. It's changing it. It's cleaning these. You have to have you can't clean them, or you have to have extra cases in order to clean them for healthcare. Right. Ours, you can wipe them down with hydrogen peroxide, with purple wipes, whatever, out of space. Or even we mentioned BlueFetch and some of the other single sign-on solutions. Here, I might have to manually type in my password every time, maybe use biometrics if I'm allowed to. Here, with our devices, we can just tap your badge and you're going.
Yep, it's a big deal.
So it's not just a mobile device, but it's equipping clinicians and frontline workers to actually be mobile. And now we're changing how you're delivering care and improving that experience for a clinician. That way, instead of having 2 or 3 or 4 different devices on his or her at one time, now it's a single device solution that can scan, I can chart, I can call you, I can take pictures, I can do other things as well, all from a single solution. So to your question is, am I seeing this? Yes. And it's a great story we've continued to preach, and I think more and more health systems are continuing to look at that. And I think in the data it said about 17 to 20% are looking, so it's almost a fifth of all the health systems here. One of the things they're looking to invest in the next 12 months was mobile devices.
Right.
And so that's encouraging to me, but it's also, I think, points to the fact that the iPhones are still the biggest player market share for mobile space, but there's a growing interest in other solutions.
Still crazy.
Yeah.
I find that fascinating that the iPhone is so dominant, I guess, to a certain degree in healthcare. That's because when I read this, and I think you brilliantly picked up on it, this is all kinds of opportunity, in the survey. You just went down all those pain points and how enterprise devices address all these pain points.
Yeah. Or if I lose a device, 42 gears, SODI, Operation Intelligence, we can find it.
Yeah, go find it. That's exactly right. There. They got the Geiger counter mode. You can go find it, and those types of things. That is awesome. But what it also teaches you, what I'm gleaning out of this survey, is to have the holistic approach that Will's talking about. You have to understand the workflow and what's going on. I'm going to refer to another thing that didn't show up in this. Oh, I guess it did. It said 30% said the scanning doesn't work. And I was interested. I was like, So now I get it. Yeah, it might not on an enterprise device, but what we also learned at our executive summit are there things like labeling. 51% of labels in a hospital are still handwritten. So it's exactly. That was one of those statistics. I think the whole room was you have got to be kidding me.
John, do you trust your handwriting?
No.
Okay.
My wife tells me I have serial killer handwriting.
Well, that's just it.
Well, great.
What do you scan? If you're scanning something that you can't even determine what it is with your human eyes, it's like,
no.
So, but again, understanding the workflow and then understanding, oh, hey, wait a minute, here's an issue why maybe your scanning's falling apart is because you're handwriting these labels that are going on specimen bottles or whatever.
Right.
So we can't scan them. So you need to have a labeling solution that can help to thwart that. It all leads into just the overall knowledge and stuff like that. I just saw a lot of opportunities behind these pain points.
Oh yeah,
I guarantee you they're happening. You validated it as well. But enterprise is here to save the day to a certain degree.
Even, can I tell a fun story? There's
a
health system. We're still working with them. So they haven't moved to just yet, but they use iPhones. And one of you meant the last data point here, it's not a whole lot, but theft. About 9% of people mention theft.
Yeah.
People want to steal these devices because it's an iPhone. Oh, I can go text, I can sell it. Well, there was a health system in the area I support, and people were stealing iPhones that clinicians had because there was a 7-Eleven or some dime store across the street that would give you $50 if you just it shows it work, shows that this device is working, put it in the slot, and they'll give you $50.
Get out of town.
And so they recovered hundreds, almost thousands of devices. They would got them back eventually.
Yeah.
But it's just looking at what's another difference. If I walk into the room and I'm taking notes on my iPhone as a nurse, because that's what I'm supposed to do within my EMR. People, as a patient, sometimes I might think that you're texting about me or texting about my issue or
that's a very
making
good
a
point.
joke about it. Now, because I have a
it
purpose.
looks unprofessional.
It looks, and it's a simple thing, but it's real.
Yeah.
That's fair.
It's the
That's a very good
optics.
point.
Perception is reality. And so if I perceive you to be looking at me and then texting on your phone or your mobile device, and it's not a purpose-built device like ours, that's going to make me concerned and self-conscious.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm also going to be less likely to steal it because it's a purpose-built device that doesn't look like somebody wants to buy it at the 7-Eleven.
Right. Yeah, you can't put Candy Crush on it or whatever.
No.
But it's not going to be as fun.
That's crazy that they're walking across the street and just, I totally get it.
Take a picture, put it in the slot.
Yeah.
I mean,
$50 later. Yeah.
Dinner's on them.
Right.
But I also think just another cool stat, just from coming from experience again. Sorry, I'm digging in. I'm excited now. But Dean, you mentioned that a lot of health systems are writing stuff down manually, and it is still true, despite what we think and how modern the rest of the world is. There's still a lot of handwritten notes or hand doing things, and one of the areas that I think sometimes is overlooked in healthcare, because the money, let's be honest, the largest opportunities are in the clinical side. But sometimes things like the supply chain or materials management, those things are overlooked. But there's still opportunity, especially if you want to get your foot in the door for healthcare.
That's fair.
As a partner or somebody maybe new to healthcare. And so one of the areas I was working with a health system, they have over 70 locations across the country. they were doing all of their inventory by hand. And so it would take for a single site 3 days to do their cycle counts, their inventory management. Every month they do it.
Yeah.
And we introduced our mobile devices and went from 3 days down to less than 8 hours.
Yeah.
And so we look at how can we're going back to that original question. Right. How can we put less strain on the IT guys? How can we put less strain on the staff as a whole? How can we help them allocate their resources properly? That's just one simple area, a drastic example, but just an area that, hey, we're saving them time and money, but also that could be impacting lives.
I love the back
as well
door.
As their material management.
Right. Come in through the back door on the supply chain.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. For sure.
The only thing I was going to add is obviously the device management piece. Again, like this all just screams to me like device management, like being able to track and identify devices, being able to manage battery life and what's happening there, being able to understand, when devices are not operating properly or, that everything is supposed to be on and that's supposed to be there, that someone can't be playing an app, a game, or, getting a ton of texts while they're trying to, because again, to your point, even if you're not doing that option is there. Like I would, I know like you can set up devices in ways that like, would potentially shut all that stuff off and go into like, like a night mode type thing. But let's be honest, there are probably some people that don't enable that and, are sitting there potentially getting blown up by texts or, the chat that's going on with their friends or whatever. Like, oh man, I got to get in on this, when they're supposed to be paying attention to patients. But yeah, I think, obviously BYOD, I think it feels like it's almost more prevalent in healthcare than almost any other industry. When you think about like from an operational IT standpoint, like I feel like that is the one industry that still is very, very locked into a lot of the consumer devices at this point. And again, I guess, most people don't tend to forget their phones. To your point, yes, they can get stolen, but like for the most part, people are holding on to those. And maybe there's an attitude of like, well, I'm good with this. I know where this is going to be because I'm going to stick in my pocket because it's potentially my own personal device or something, or I think of it like my own personal device. But yes, at the end of the day, the purpose-built stuff, man, I don't understand. I don't understand why there's still so much locked in on the consumer device side when the benefits of the purpose-built are so obvious at this point. Hopefully we got some ammo to steer them a little bit further in that direction. But the theft story, that's a good one. That's an epic one to put out there.
You never know what's happening in the marketplace, right?
No, not at all.
Well, let me go into one other area in this particular survey that I think is important. And the reason why we do these surveys, again, as you alluded to in the very beginning, is to arm people with business intelligence walking in the door. So we're talking about scan failures, right? Well, I can guarantee you 99.9% of the time, it is not the device that's having an hard time scanning. It's probably the label or something like that, right? It's illegible. So you're walking in the door and you can see from the survey that 63% of the time, medical administration is where scanning is failing. Okay, well, that's a huge issue, right? Like you don't want the wrong medicine going to the wrong people. So just dig in, ask questions around it. You can even say, hey, I saw in a survey that, almost 3/4 of the time when you're having scan issues, it's probably around medical administration or medicine administration. Can we look at that workflow? And you might see that, they don't have barcode scanning on their or they're printing it off on a printer and taping it onto the bottle or something like that. That's making the medication failure on scan. So you see what I'm saying? Use this information to ask the questions so that you can understand their workflow and come up with more holistic solutions. Because I agree with Will. You got to be solution providers, right? You got to understand why it's being used, how it's being used, and really help these organizations knowing that, well, here it is. Patient ID, medical administration, and inventory replenishment. Those are the three major reasons why scans are failing. There's answers to all that. Yep. There's answers to all of them. So
absolutely.
Anyway,
well, that's kind of part of where my last question was here, which is, are there any other findings, the things that you saw in the survey that stood out to you beyond what we've already talked about that you think we really need to address?
I think the survey was pretty clear, and I agree with a lot of it. I think one thing that I noted was important was that I think the majority of respondents were IT based, and that makes sense. That's where we are. But I think for our VAR community and for us as vendors too, they also, I think one of the statistics was that a lot of the decisions about, I think the question was around who's scanning, who's doing XYZ, who would determine that, where's the budget coming from, it was IT led, which makes sense because that's where a lot of who it's coming from, who I'm speaking to on a daily basis. However, with some of these solutions, I think it's valuable to make sure you're getting the buy-in from especially the clinical side, but other players in the space. For me, I think there's 3 buyers, especially around mobility, if that's what we're going to talk about, but even scanners, printers too, that are important. It's the IT guys are critical, but it's the users, which is the clinicians, your frontline workers, then also the financial or leadership side as well, depending on what the solution may be. So a lot of times IT, because they're getting bombarded by guys like me on a daily basis, tell them this is the best thing since sliced bread. They have maybe a new idea, new solution, but in order for it to really sell, in order for it to really work and be implemented, the clinicians have to get buy-in. And there's been examples that we've come across with other customers where they've bought their another vendor's mobile devices, and nurses, it wasn't working for them, and so they just weren't using them. And so they had them, but they weren't using them. And so that's where we came in, and we were able to provide our solution, and they used them properly because they were trained, they were supported, et cetera. But just something to think about is that not just make it IT focused, but how can we, especially as we want to connect and expand strategically across the health system, how can we partner with other buyers or players, stakeholders that would be beneficial or benefit from this?
Because I mean, if you want to talk about what will stop a project dead in its tracks, or to your point, like you sell some devices and find out they're not even used, it is not getting the buy-in from the actual clinicians, the people that are using it. Because these are folks who part of their job is being able to improvise and work on the fly and know that, like, hey, at the end of the day, I've got to help this patient out. And if this thing that I'm supposed to use to make that happen is not getting it done, then I will just go back to the things that I've always done. Even if it's a manual process, I know it works. I know what I'm doing. So yeah, I like that. That's you're absolutely right. If you're not getting their buy-in as part of it from the beginning, or creating those super users or whatever it is, you're going to find yourself in a situation where when IT shows up and says, hey, we've got all these new devices, go use those, guys. We'll see you later, you know. And they all just like pick up, look at them and go, whatever, you know, and then just get back to work, you know, and do what they've always been doing. Like to me, that is an absolute part of the entire process.
It is.
Well,
that came out in the survey, though. When it fails, when scanning or ID fails, the most improvise, or they improvise. That's what happens. 41% of them go to a manual workaround. I mean, that's like, no.
That's not what you want to be hearing. I mean, again, you got to do what you got to do.
Of course they do.
When a patient is there and you got to take care of them, you got to do what you got to do. But that should not be.
I've never known,
almost half the time if someone's like, all right, fine, I guess I'm just doing this the way I always do.
I've never known anyone in the medical community, like a nurse or a clinician or a doctor, that's going to be like, oh, it didn't work. I'm just going to sit here.
I'll wait.
Like, no, I'll wait. That's not their DNA.
I'm going to call IT. We'll wait till they get here, and then we'll finish.
They're going to figure out, you're right. And so your solution better work, dang it.
Because I mean, you know, the one thing that hospitals care about more than anything is turning over those beds.
Oh, for sure.
You're not doing any good for your hospital.
And patient satisfaction.
You're not meeting. Exactly. You're not going to have a satisfied patient, because no one wants to stay in a hospital any longer than they have to.
Right.
No one goes to the hospital and like doesn't feel like they have a stupid long time that they have to be there anyway, whether it's the wait to get in or when you're in, all the stuff that you got to wait through, even for the most simple cases. So if you're not addressing that in some way, if you're not trying to figure out ways to make to help it be a little bit faster, get them out the door just a tiny bit faster, what are you even doing here? What's the point?
I think your point oftentimes our products looked as peripherals, but the survey says, not to be too much what's the game show Family Feud. Survey says survey said that these are either mission critical or absolutely necessary, but high maintenance.
Right.
But so I think the positive for me looking at that is that these IT leaders, these clinical leaders who responded, recognize that although they're simple solutions sometimes, they're critical solutions. And so they have to be, they're used on a daily basis. And so I think to your point, John, about and Dean, about improving the experience, sometimes we just think it's just a necessary evil. We have to throw this out there. But if you're equipping clinicians with the right tools, it's going to improve their experience, make them happier. And when their experience is made better, they're going to give better care to their patients. Their patients are going to receive better care. They're going to be healthier faster, get discharged faster, and they're more likely to return if they need help in the future. So now you're creating customer loyalty, and part of it, obviously not everything, can be driven back to some of our solutions that we're providing them and equipping them with, because we're improving that experience in the long run, could create customer loyalty. as well.
Yeah.
So just an avenue to think about. And
Absolutely.
then my last point, I'm sorry, one more point to you.
Go for it.
That I think sometimes there's a perception that just because the IT guys and the clinical teams work on the same for the same organization, that they're talking to each other. And that's another thing I want to just highlight is that how can we make sure, we mentioned there's 3 different buying groups that we're focused on, but they're not always talking to one another. And there's some health systems I work with that are really, really good at that. And there's others that
they're in silos.
They're silos. And I'm from Honeywell. I know what a silo is. So,
Right.
But it's just how can we break some of those barriers? And as a VAR, if you continue going back to that strategic partnership, how can we make sure we're connecting the dots to everybody is I think a critical point to that.
I agree.
Yep.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Orchestrating that ecosystem, you have to be in tune with it, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
And know how to mitigate those.
There you go.
barriers.
The one last thing I'll throw in the stats that I thought was interesting is that, and you kind of alluded to this earlier when you were talking about people looking to make changes, looking at potentially new devices. 91% of our respondents said they were exploring changes to something in their auto ID, whether it's barcode scanning, whether it's the mobile devices, printers, whatever it is, within the next 2 years.
Holy moly.
And 39% said within the next year. So, this is one of those things where, I feel like sometimes people look at healthcare and they think this is slow moving. It's going to take forever. I've got to wait for the right buying cycle to be happening. Well, maybe right now is that time that's happening.
Yeah.
If you haven't been exploring and talking about it, if you haven't been reaching out and tapping into your previous customers, given that 91% said that they are expected to make changes in the next couple of years, this is the time you should be having those conversations.
And they should be calling me.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah.
But that does mesh with the what we call in the industry a refresh cycle.
Oh, yeah.
In the sense that a lot of stuff was implemented right when the pandemic hit.
Yep.
Well, here we are 6-7 years hence, and
That's
it's
a very good point.
We're hitting this refresh cycle, so it's absolutely a timely time to go in and talk to them about these types of things and maybe, upgrade them, get them off the iPhones, get them onto enterprise devices, talk more holistically about the label printing and some of the other things that are involved in it.
Well,
right.
Let me ask you, Will, and maybe this is part of our, value to the VAR, what you're going to talk about what Honeywell's doing. And if so, we can wait for that. But do you think the AI conversation is also pushing people to to start looking at these changes? Are they recognizing that, as AI is being requested to be implemented or they know that it's coming? Is that also why they're starting to make these decisions and think like, we gotta start reevaluating because we've got to figure out stuff that can also be part of the AI conversation?
I think there's some of that. Sure. AI, I think in healthcare is critical, or it's growing. Right. I think the initial spots for AI was more back office, revenue cycle management, scheduling, because the challenge for AI in healthcare is there's HIPAA violations, there's other things other regulations to be aware of.
Right.
A great example of where AI is taking place today is ambient listening. So I could put my device down, whether it's mine or an iPhone, have that conversation, and it's taking notes, listening to it, and summarizing. That way, the
charting a little bit.
That way the doctor isn't looking this direction and talking to you.
Yeah.
But now we're having a conversation. We can recognize and see each other as we talk.
Yeah.
I think AI is playing a role in it. I think there's other things like just EMRs. There's a lot of shifts in what hospital health systems are using for their EMR, and typically that drives changes in what technology you might be using, or that's a time to refresh if you're a health system, typically. But if we go back to the eye point, I think they are looking for technology that can work alongside and be future-proofed with it. Yeah. And that's where a lot of Honeywell is our focus is, hey, we're not just solving today's problems, but our devices are built for tomorrow too.
There you go.
And so we're building a platform that you can build on and be leveraging as AI or new technologies come out.
Yes. Nice. Which is cool stuff, by the way. I think you guys are doing it. It is. It's cool.
All right. Well, in a moment, we're going to let Will talk a little bit more about how Honeywell's helping you out with these challenges and helping you grow your business in healthcare. Before we do that, a quick note of what's happening around BlueStar Nation. Look, I know this is an episode about healthcare. We've actually got another healthcare episode coming up next week as well. But I've got to shout out the RSPA Vendor Awards of Excellence because voting is open now and it's closing soon. The VAE gives RSPA members an opportunity to acknowledge the best in our industry in hardware, software, support, and distribution. Hey, we're a distributor.
Wait, are we doing that? Yeah, we do that.
That's something we do,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. Hint.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, check out the link in our show notes to cast your vote. Only one per member company by June 5th, and winners will be announced at retail. Now, that is the Vendor Awards of Excellence. All right. As always, while you're doing that, take a moment to like our show. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit the like button for this episode. Leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. We don't get a lot of comments on the YouTube stuff, but when we do, I always pay attention to them. If it's something someone's asking a question or needs some help with something, I always try to respond and help them out. So don't hesitate to leave comments. Make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel so you don't miss when new episodes of this and all the other cool stuff that we have comes out. If you're listening on an audio platform, only, leave us a 5-star rating review, especially if you're on Apple Podcasts. That is a great way to, help us grow the show and get it pushed out in the feeds and the algorithms to more folks. And of course, reach out to us at any time. Again, check out that BlueStar Nation blog. There's lots of good data and articles there. We've done, a couple different healthcare ones now, but we also do them in a lot of other industries, including retail, supply chain, manufacturing, you name it. We've done stuff out there. And don't hesitate to send your ideas for the show into us, stuff that you want to hear about on these surveys, topics you want us to talk about on the podcast, guests you would like us to bring on and chat with. We're happy to do what you are interested in hearing about on the show. So at any time, you can reach out to us, find us on the BlueStar LinkedIn page, or email us directly, nation@bluestarinc.com. All right, let's wrap things up with a little VAR value here. So, Will, you've kind of hinted along the way of all the cool stuff that Honeywell is doing to help support VARs in the healthcare space, but maybe give us the distillation of that. How are you going out to help them tackle these challenges, address the findings from this survey, find new opportunities, that the things we have been seeing out there, and then how can VARs use the data that we did find out in the survey and the things that you guys are finding out in the world also to help them grow their healthcare business?
Well, I think I'll start with the data. I think that's straightforward. There's opportunity, and Dean mentioned. I think just looking at this full sheet, it's full of opportunities and talking points that leads to questions about, hey, what are you struggling with? Are you having these challenges too? Other people are, so I imagine you are as well. Where can I help you? Where can I add value? What are you looking for? And I think also just again, I know I've hit it a couple of times, but how can we become that strategic partner VAR? And I think part of that is you as the VAR, but then also how can we as a vendor like Honeywell and a distributor like BlueStar together, how can we demonstrate our cohesiveness and our partnership and bring that to the customer too? I think that's a sticking point, because now instead of you walking in there alone, now you're armed with an arsenal of an army that can do a lot more than just one thing. And I think that's a big thing that health systems are looking for. We're all being asked to do more with less. So how can they're looking at that from a partner perspective? Can you offer me more than just one thing? But also from a technology perspective, can you deliver more than just one thing? And all of our solutions are built to do more than just one thing at Honeywell.
I love it.
So I think for that, we're excited to partner with organizations in our VAR community, our ISVs as well. I think for Honeywell, we're continuing to invest and focus in healthcare as well as across the board. And some of the areas that maybe people aren't as familiar with for us, I'll point out just here, and I think maybe Dean has more, but AI is obviously a big focus. I had to hit that. A lot of our solutions as we move forward, especially in the mobility space, are leveraging and incorporating AI in them. And our scan engines already have that. They've had that for years. And when I say AI, everybody rolls their eyes a little bit. I have to say it, right? It's a buzzword. But it's things like ambient listening is being built into our device in some cases, or it could be if I like ask Red, almost like a Siri, like a chat bot of sorts, where now I can ask, hey, how do I repair this printer? Or if I'm a healthcare worker, we can work with them to get background data. And how do I do X, Y, Z? Or should medicine A pair with medicine B? And then we can synthesize that and give them direct feedback to them. And those are basic examples. I hope the nurse would know about the medications, but just in case.
Well, they're asked to do a lot to your point.
And we talk about cognitive burdens in healthcare a lot. How can we reduce those decisions you have to make? And how can we just provide that extra step and level of accuracy? That's one area, along with things like vision solutions, which is where we're focusing too. How can we, on our mobile devices, say retail or healthcare, if I'm looking at a pharmacy wall, and it has all these different medications and barcode labels on it. How do I provide an extra validation that what I'm picking up is actually the right medication? And we can synthesize right on the screen, augmented intelligence, X's over the wrong barcodes and put a green check mark over the one you're going for. So it's just simple things like that, simple workflows. You could expand that to a lot of other things, but those are base level ones that we're investing in from a technology perspective. But then also I want to highlight another group that maybe people don't know as much when it comes to Honeywell. Two groups actually. One is there's a service component. So a lot of our VAR community offers fantastic managed services. And we talked about life cycle management as being a value add to maybe become more strategic.
Huge. Yeah.
One area that we can help augment that is through some of our managed solutions. If a VAR doesn't have them, we can white label it under them. Or if you have some but not others, we can also partner with you. So things like deployments, spare pool management, MDM management. There's health systems I talk to where they have a deep expertise and knowledge, but they just don't have the time to manage their MDM. Know when to update, know when to push out firmware. And so we can help manage that for them and help simplify that for them as well. The other thing, help desk support 24/7, and it's global too. It's not just the U.S. We're Gartner recognized for it. Nice. And then I think the third thing is something we call the Honeywell User Experience Group, HUE or HUE is what they're known as within internally. And what's cool about them is they're the guys who design our products. They're talking, they do VOC with customers. They'll come on site. They'll make repair or adjustments if needed, if there's an opportunity to. But they're designing the products, but they also can provide consultative services, essentially.
Nice.
That they can come in and look at, say, a hospital. And I had them on site recently, a few weeks ago, and looking at the workflows of a hospital. And it's identifying areas for the healthcare or the hospital to improve. And it doesn't even pertain it can pertain to our technology. It doesn't have to. And so what's unique is this is like a $200,000, $300,000 typical fee for somebody if they were to pull in Deloitte or some of these other consultative services. We do it for free.
Accenture or something.
We do it for free. And it doesn't have to even be about our technology at the end of it. Because we were talking about how many steps it takes for you to go from your room to the print room where you had how many a nurse was having to find another nurse to sign off to discharge a patient, but she couldn't find them. And yes, we have solutions like our devices that we can call you. We can have printers that could be right next to you, et cetera. But it's other things beyond just pointing out, here's a scanner, here's a mobile device. But here's how you can improve your entire workflow, and that improves your experience, even if it doesn't mean our stuff.
That's awesome.
And that's device agnostic, manufacturer agnostic, whatever. But just a couple areas where we differentiate, but also just sharing things that maybe our VAR community may not know Honeywell for or know that we have, that's available resources to them to leverage or that they can sell through on their own.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's ecosystem enablement is another way. I mean, I think Honeywell does a very good job of doing that, of staging it so that you can bring in partners, along the way. I love what you guys are doing on the software side. I think it's, very cutting edge as far as a platform is concerned and the LLMs that they've integrated and stuff like that. A lot of good stuff is happening there. But as a reseller, you got to lean into these resources, right? It's okay. Will's not a bad guy. He's not going to bite your head off. Call him. Have him go on the call with you, because a show of force is much better, and it's necessary in today's world. So.
Again, you're just speaking to all that strategic partnership stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
You can't, I don't think it's smart to be a transactional reseller at all in the current world. Definitely not in healthcare. They're going to smell you from a mile away. Yeah. They're going to see you're just trying to move some stuff and you're just trying to make a sale, and they're going to be like, no, we're good. I need an actual partner. And everything you spoke to says partner. I'm here to help. I'm here to help you grow. I'm here to help you win. I'm here to help your business do well, to help you do better by your patients. But at the end of the day, yes, hospitals are a business same as anywhere else, but ultimately everyone there has a unified goal, which is we want patients to be taken care of, to be made healthy whenever they can, and to have their lives.
Ideally, yes.
Yeah, ideally, yes. I would hope so. If you come across one of those hospitals that's not interested in that, just let us know. We'll make sure we steer clear of that. I would think for the most part,
don't go there.
That's probably the goal.
Good stuff.
All right. So, of course, if you want to learn more about how Honeywell can help you out in the healthcare space, don't hesitate to reach out to our Honeywell team. We'll be happy to have conversations with you. We will be happy to connect you to Will and get him out there to meet with some of your potential customers and, again, help you win some of those opportunities. All right, let's wrap up, as always, with what's on our radar. This is the fun part of the show. We get to talk about anything in tech, business, innovation, science, news, entertainment, just whatever we feel like chatting about today. So, Will, what's on your radar right now?
There's a lot on my mind. That's the dangerous part about it. I think a few things. One of them is the college football world. That's changing for sure. Just with the Playoff was not newly instituted, but changed for this past year.
What are your thoughts on that? Like, do you think it's a positive? Do you like the old system?
I think the playoff is a good thing. I think it's exciting. I think as we continue to expand it more and more and more, that could be what's the point of having a regular season at that point?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
There's only so many football games you can play.
That's so true. So true. Yeah.
But I think not the frustrating, but it's exciting, but also frustrating as a traditionalist, as a traditional fan, is some of the conference realignments.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys have focused on that.
No, we've been involved in that for sure.
It seems like a constant struggle to no one's and it also feels like it's more of a business monetary thing more than anything.
Why even call it the Big Ten anymore?
I know.
Are we up to 20?
It's just creating weird
10 times
powerhouses.
2.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think it takes away from is some of the regional rivalries.
Absolutely.
Obviously, it doesn't make sense to have Stanford and Cal in the ACC Atlantic Coast.
Yeah, exactly.
But also, I got family out in the Pacific Northwest, and so a big game for them in the Washington State region each year was Washington versus Washington State. Yeah, it's the Apple Cup.
Gone.
You play for the trophy. Well, they sometimes still play as of now.
Okay.
But it's week 3. It's no longer a conference game.
Yeah.
Like some years. That game would determine who would go to the Pac-12 championship game.
Absolutely.
And I know the East Coast people maybe don't care about that, but that's kind of the point, that they don't care about Washington and Oregon.
Exactly.
And Oregon doesn't care about Rutgers. I'm sorry.
Right. That's right. No, they don't.
But
right.
Is it fun to see Oregon play Ohio State now in a conference? Yeah.
Okay.
But
right. Yeah.
I would still like to see them play USC and Washington, because those are rivalries that mean something to those people in those regions.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's I still enjoy it. College football. I had a chance to play it in school, and so I enjoy it. But definitely some of those things are frustrating. But I think the playoff itself is a good thing. I just want to be weary of how much are we going to expand it, because does a 24 seed team really have a chance to beat Indiana, who's throughout Indiana?
Yeah. Right. Does it feel like they're just trying to make it similar to like NCAA, so we can bracketize it and turn it into a bigger event? Because I'll admit, like, college basketball, I do not pay any attention to throughout the season, but I always care when the brackets come out.
The NCAA, the tournament.
Because I got a stake in it. I'm filling out some brackets and I want to see.
Well, I think there's more opportunity to have a Cinderella story in basketball
that's a
than
very
football.
good point. Yeah,
I don't know.
That's true.
I don't know if the 25th ranked football team is ever going to compete.
That's a very, very good point. Because you're talking about teams that have players that are going to be heading off to the NFL next year versus just some guys that are just having some fun before they start their real job.
Work for Honeywell.
That's right.
I think you're right. I think the cool thing is, well, maybe not cool, but with all the NIL and the transfer portal stuff,
which that's what I want your take on. Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to share that. but I think some of that stuff, one of the value odds or the positives, if you want to say, by expanding the playoff because of that stuff. The 15 ranked team has a better chance now more than ever than they did previously to beat a number 1 ranked team.
Yeah, right.
But still, is it going to happen? Likely not as much as it could for basketball. For sure. Just because, again, it's just football's a different beast.
Different beast. Yeah. I'm not a fan of the NIL. I think I don't know. We got to figure that out. It's in its current. You like it?
No.
Okay.
I agree with you.
Yeah, we got to figure that out, because it's ruining a part of the mystique. Where you were going with the whole college football thing. Yeah, I mean, that was part of it. I mean, like UC, we battled West Virginia. That was close, and we were part of our conference. But now we're playing like Texas. Yeah. Because we're part of the Big 12, which is now Big 50. And it's like, you just kind of lose some of that.
I agree. Anyway. I think it has to be reeled in, because you can't just have people throwing money. And then these kids, if I look from an education standpoint, there's kids going freshman year one school, sophomore year another school, whoever's going to give them the best opportunity, the most money.
They're just hopping around. Yeah.
And like, what good does that do for them as a higher education? Your focus is to educate them. And I know football, people go to school to study football sometimes. I get it. But there's still life after football for everybody.
Right. That's right. And most of them, the majority of them, do not make it to the NFL.
Exactly.
And do not have these. And even if you, let's be honest, even if you somehow do make it to the NFL, there's no guarantee you have a long career. There's no guarantee that you're going to get the kind of money. There's a good chance you're going to need to have a real job someday at some point. And if you didn't get that education, then you're starting off from behind there.
And NFL stands for not for long. That's what
that's right.
Exactly.
Not for long.
That's
That's right.
Because the average, if you make it onto
3 years,
a team, 3 years,
Wow.
or less now.
That's rough.
And so it's most of those guys aren't making They're making good money, but it's not life altering in the sense of Tom Brady.
Not you're set forever.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's an interesting thing, but I think the only a positive, again, there's plus and minuses. A positive NIL is guys are staying in college longer. Doesn't mean they're getting a degree, but they're staying in college longer because they can make good money, maybe more than they could if they went to the NFL early on. So pluses and minuses.
Definitely.
All right,
Dean, what's on your
So we're going to stay in the world of football.
Okay.
How serendipitous is this?
Mine's not football, unfortunately. I hate to tell you, but
okay. So I stumbled across an article which are the best logos in the NFL. So now you have to visualize team helmets.
Okay.
And give me, because I will give you the top 5 best and the top 5 worst. So who has the worst logo in the NFL?
Worst?
Yeah.
I'd say Browns.
Wow, you guys are good.
Because it's just boring. There's nothing there.
Your
And they
bottom
stink.
5.
Sorry.
Well, there's that too.
So the
Cleveland Browns.
The number 1 worst was the Green Bay Packers by this one. So it's the Green Bay, it's just the G on there,
I mean,
right?
it's kind of iconic, but okay, I guess it is. It's
Cleveland Browns, yes, they were there. You got any other ones you want to throw on the table?
that are just the worst
Just
side.
bad. They're just bad. I'll help you out. The Jets were up there.
yeah.
Arizona Cardinals were up there. And then finally, the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts is kind of, it's just a horseshoe.
And are we talking specifically about the logos on the
logo.
helmets?
Yeah. But they're visualizing the helmet itself.
Okay.
So who do you think has the best logo and or helmet treatment?
Is someone going to put the Cowboys up there just because it's the Cowboys?
Yes, they put them in the top 10.
I figured that much. I mean, it's just a star.
Not looking at your document. Seahawks, are they up there?
Seahawks are up there. Yes, that's a
good one.
really good
My
one.
favorite, so I had to pick them.
Yep, they are number 5.
What about the Ravens? Keeping that same bird
no, the Ravens were actually kind of towards the bottom.
Okay.
Eagles?
No, the Eagles were kind of middle of the road.
I wouldn't think the Patriots would.
The top 5 were Seattle. So you got that one. Detroit Lions, I don't know if I'm on with that one. That's just a lion on there, right? The Chargers, so you got a bolt of lightning.
Okay, that is...
All right, it's not too bad.
Again,
the
kind of
Saints,
boring, but still.
The Saints with the fleur-de-lis.
Okay.
That's pretty cool. And then the number 1 is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with the flag and the kind of thing. Now, what really attracted me to this is the Bengals were finally in the top 10 of something.
All right.
Our beloved Bengals came in at number 9 on this. So,
You have a lot of top 10 draft picks, don't you?
We do. Oh, we're going to be good this year. This is our year. But anyway.
We traded it away this year. But, yes.
Which is your favorite, Dean, though? What's your favorite logo?
Oh, the Bengals, all the way. I mean, I'm a homegrown boy here. So,
it is
Cincinnati. So.
But that's one that takes up the whole helmet, too.
It does.
So
I
feel like
you got the Bengal tiger,
That's better than a logo.
It is better than a logo.
I will say
the helmet is the logo.
The Seahawks do have a pretty
They do
cool
have a really good
the
one.
way they use their logo in
That
their
is
helmet,
fair.
I do think looks
That
really
is fair.
good. So
Good colors.
I'll give it that one.
Eagles were 14th, by the way. And that's a pretty badass one, too. So, anyway,
they're just connected.
I'm just glad that we can all just agree that we're glad the Chiefs were in the top there.
That's right. They were towards the bottom. Yes.
I agree.
They might have been 6 from the bottom.
Completely unrelated. I saw some kind of map the other day that was like, the most popular NFL team by state. And the only place where the Chiefs were the most popular team was just Kansas.
Absolutely.
That was it.
Nobody else likes them.
Like, every other team had at least 2 or 3 states.
Yeah, like the Cowboys, you got fan pockets everywhere,
the Chiefs,
kind of a thing.
The Chiefs were just that one state, and that's it.
Who did Missouri pick? Because I think the Steelers are in Missouri, aren't they?
I think it was the Bears for Missouri, maybe.
Bears? That's questionable.
I think so. Yeah,
Could be questionable.
Yeah, it was. That was an interesting choice, I thought, there too.
So what's on your radar? If it's not football related, do we really care?
I'm sorry. I know. Seriously, I missed the memo. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
We should have done this in the fall.
Now I'm gonna be a nerd. And I'm gonna talk about space. But I'm gonna talk about the planet Earth as well. So, all right, NASA has released this interesting, cool little tool called Your Name in Landsat. So what this is there was a project that NASA has been running for over 50 years called Landsat, which created an extensive record of satellite images from various satellites going around taking pictures of the Earth.
Okay.
And in particular, what they then did is they took those images and tried to pick out where do certain images in the Earth look like letters of the alphabet.
Oh, okay.
So they've created a website where you can go and you can type in any word or your name or whatever and have it spelled out using topography images from the Earth of your particular name that looks like letters. So, for example, Mine, this is on NASA sighting. I think if you just Google your name and Landsat, but I'll drop, of course, the link in the show notes. So when I put in John Martin in mine,
all right.
For example, like the O in John is Crater Lake in Oregon. So you know, the lake, it's kind of an oval shape, you know, it looks like an O. The N in John looks like some roadways in Brazil.
So it could be roads too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, anything that could be captured potentially from a satellite image. The M in Martin is a piece of the Potomac River that looks like an M. So you get what I'm saying here. There's like, you know, basically like where you can spell it out. And I guess if you wanted to, you could snap a picture of it, put it out there somewhere. I think for every letter, there are at least 5 different options.
Clearly, because I put in Will into Landsat, and I've
you probably got 2 different L's, right?
We do. Yeah, we have 2 different L's. Yes, we have one that looks like a roadish, and then one's like fields.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a cornfield.
And you can hover over the images, and it tells you exactly where they're at. It even tells you the exact longitude.
Your eye, by the way, looks like some kind of island in the middle of a lake of some sort.
With snow on it.
Was it the Iceland one?
I don't. You know, it's not telling me where these are, though. I mean, it gives me the images.
If you hover over it should say underneath where you put the name in. It should tell you.
Yeah.
That's where I see it.
Duh. Okay, now I see it. Yeah.
There you go.
So there, Indonesia. Let's see, Iceland. Yes, your eye is in Iceland.
That was where my eye and Martin came from.
Okay, there you go.
There you go.
I think I need to go visit these places now. Maybe we do a podcast
there you go. There you go. I like that.
You're part of me now. Indonesia, Iceland.
Hey, wait a minute. I put in Dean, and the A is in Hickman, Kentucky.
Oh,
so
nice.
Wherever Hickman, Kentucky is, it's got to be relatively close.
All right.
I guess that's an A.
We could go visit that.
There you go.
Maybe it could be part of our Bourbon Trail episode. You know?
There you go. I like it.
There's got to be some part of the Bourbon Trail that's near Hickman, Kentucky.
Fair enough.
I'm sure. So.
Who knew? Landsat. Got it.
There you go. So
cool.
Go type your name in Landsat. You know, I'm sure you'll see people start sticking this kind of stuff like in their profile banners or something.
Yes.
You know, maybe I'll do my LinkedIn banner with that.
Yes, my new LinkedIn banner is going to be my Landsat.
Exactly. All right, that is what's on our radar. Will Mobley from Honeywell.
Will.
Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate having you on the show today. Again, reach out to your Honeywell team if you need some help with your healthcare opportunities. Until next time, go put that patient in trauma 2. Have you seen how many people are out there in the chairs? Has anyone checked on Baby Jane Doe? That's not going to make any sense to you guys because you don't watch the PIP, but some of you out there.
There you go.
I guarantee you got that reference.
Nicely done.
We'll see you out there in the nation.